Coming up in the news, the Minister for Grants Bahamas, the Honorable Ginger Moxie, making her contribution on the budget debate. Also, police officials investigating an alleged drowning in the 8 Mile Rock community. And the Yuletide season is here, and plans are underway for the Port Lacaya Christmas tree lighting. The Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition, starts now.
This is the Bahamas Tonight, Northern Edition.
This is the Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition. Good evening all, I'm Jamila Mizik. Thank you so much for tuning in. The Minister for Grants Bahamas, the Honorable Ginger Moxie, making her contribution on the supplementary budget debate in the House of Assembly on Wednesday. Moxie sharing plans for the island of Grants Bahamas while announcing ongoing meetings with the Grants Bahamas Port Authority and the Grants Bahamas Power Company, respectively, on issues that continue to impact residents of this island. Shishina Farquharson has our top story.
We are working for you. We are working for Grand Bahama.
The Minister for Grand Bahama, the Honorable Ginger Moxie, says the island of Grand Bahama has been neglected over the past 4.5 years by the previous minister-led administration.
Lest we forget, the former administration brought us so banned and still was never able to find the missing five. Lest we forget the horrific handling of the remains of loved ones after Dorian and the disregard for the survivors of Dorian. Deputy Speaker, while I did not want to go there, I just thought we all needed a reality check, as I'm frankly alarmed by the posturing of the opposition.
But she says under this New Day government, their focus is action. Here on Grand Bahama, the minister says her ministry is in talks with the Grand Bahama Port Authority and GB Power on matters of concern.
We are in communication with the member of Freetown and the Grand Bahama Port Authority on the recent fires in Grand Bahama to ensure that we have the necessary infrastructure and equipment. Madam Speaker, we are still in discussions with the Grand Bahama Port Authority and the Grand Bahama Power Company, reiterating our position that the people and businesses of Grand Bahama cannot afford a rate increase at this time, considering what we have been through since Hurricane Dorian and the COVID-19 pandemic.
She says the focus now is on rebuilding Grand Bahama and strengthening the island's infrastructure.
This is welcome news for Grand Bahama, which is in dire need of focused attention in the aftermath of Dorian. Deputy Speaker, the supplementary budget has 3 goals, which are to provide much-needed relief for the Bahamian people, to reallocate funding to match the ministerial portfolios, and to provide funding for critical expenditure that were neglected by the previous administration.
And here's why she supports the supplementary budget.
Real assistance now, real relief now, and policies that will positively transform our country and positively impact Bahamians now. Tax relief for families that will stimulate the economy. Direct relief for families, especially those most in need of support now. And a proactive plan that will stop the downward fiscal trend and the excessive financial waste that we inherited from the previous administration.
Shishina Farquharson, ZNS Network News.
The Minister of Labor and Immigration, Keith Bell, telling ZNS News that the Department of Immigration is continuing to clear the backlog of cases for persons applying for citizenship, as plans are being made to digitize the Immigration Department to increase efficiency. He says the team in the Northern Bahamas is doing its part to ensure that the backlog is being addressed with due diligence. Shishina Farquharson reports.
The Minister of Labor and Immigration, Keith Bell, says that the government remains committed to clearing up the backlog in cases for persons applying for citizenship in the Northern Bahamas.
On the side of me, the acting director, along with her executive team, and they're working assiduously to make sure we deal with the backlog. So we're not necessarily concerned with the numbers as much as we are concerned with ensuring that persons' applications are dealt with as quickly as we possibly can, efficiently, and that there's due diligence.
He says this process must be done with due diligence.
We do know that there is an issue in terms of establishing a national system of identification in the Bahamas. And so everything that we possibly could do, all of the documents that are required from the respective countries, we ensure that we get them before an application is even considered.
Minister Bell says persons who remain in a stateless position face many challenges.
In order to get a job, you need identification. If you can't get a passport, you can't open a bank account, you can't get national insurance, or even if you get that, there are issues as to where you can go and the kind of employment. And more importantly, in terms of education, if they want to get higher education, there are all of these requirements. So their lives are basically put on stop or hold until they're able to their process.
A recent swearing-in ceremony took place just over a week ago on Grand Bahama, where 14 persons were granted Bahamian citizenship. Shoshana Rolf-Arkeson, ZNS Network News.
In other news, police on Grand Bahama are investigating an alleged drowning incident. According to reports around 5 p.m. yesterday, officers at the 8 Mile Rock Police Station received information that a male was found unresponsive on a beach in Holmes Rock, Grand Bahama. Upon officers' arrival, initial investigations revealed that an adult male who frequents the beach was seen going into the water for a swim, leaving his bicycle on the beach. Further checks were made for the male, where he was found lifeless on the beach. The male was transported to the Ram Memorial Hospital, where he was examined and pronounced dead by doctors. Investigations are being continued. And still with news from the Western District, the 8 Mile Rock community continues to mourn the loss of a number of young men violently killed in less than 3 weeks in separate incidents. Tonight, leaders in the sporting world of that community say more initiatives need to be put in place to keep the young people of that community active. Shoshana Rolf-Arkeson reports.
Ross Burrows says since the pandemic, the Basketball Association programs have been halted, but he is hoping that these types of programs are given permission to continue soon as they lessen the idle time of youngsters within the community.
Well, I'm very concerned about these murders, stabbings. The first one where a young lady was shot a couple times, she survived, but the community of 8 Mile Rock was never known to be this type of community. We usually live together as one big family where we look out for each other. If I have, you have.
PE instructor at the 8 Mile Rock High School ran a basketball program since 1983, and he says he knew each of the victims killed in the recent murders within the 8 Mile Rock community.
I feel like we don't have enough things to keep young people busy. I feel like our system, I think that the parents and everyone else have to come together and find positive things for our children to do, because our community in West Bahama is not active after 3 o'clock with things for kids, young people to do.
But he believes that the kids are being failed at all levels, and more support is needed from parents, the community, and the government.
Just like how we, as a community, get out there to vote people to run our country, we need to get out there and make sure that our kids, our community is taken care of. We live as a community, we live too much, we depend too much on other people to bring up our kids. Then we need to bring up our kids ourselves.
And while some have questioned the level of police presence in 8 Mile Rock, here's what Burrows had to say.
They are very visible in the community, but for some reason the killing and stabbings and senseless crimes keep going on.
Shoshana Rolf-Arkeson, ZNS Network News.
In just a few weeks, the Grand Bahama Christian Council will have a new president. For the past 4 years, the council has been under the leadership of Reverend Dr. Robert Lockhart. Tonight, the council president is sharing his experience, some of the challenges the organization faced, and his plans moving forward. Italia Hall reports.
President of the Grand Bahama Christian Council, Reverend Dr. Robert Lockhart, was elected as president in 2018 and re-elected in 2020. In total, he has served at the executive level for some 8 years. He says overall he believes that the organization has lived up to the tasks during his tenure. The president notes that his first year in office was smooth, but that was short-lived, as Grand Bahama and Abaca was faced with Hurricane Dorian in 2019.
And so the challenges changed, the needs changed, and it put us all into emergency mood. And at that moment, we worked very closely with NEMA and with all government agencies going into emergency gear to begin to help our people to first of all deal with the immediate aftermath of Hurricane Dorian, working with NGOs. 95% of all the NGOs that came into the Bahamas were faith-based NGOs.
He says Hurricane Dorian brought the church together in more ways than before, as the Christian Council was able to work along with some 120 churches and the National Emergency Management Agency.
I must say a great thank you to all the pastors and churches combining with government, with NEMA, and with other government agencies, social services, to just make sure that people had food, they had water, and then of course came in with the building supplies. We were able to work with organizations, with Samaritan Purse and also one of the Catholic organizations to repair homes throughout, especially roofs, repairing roofs that were damaged.
Then came the COVID-19 pandemic, which he says is challenging as well. But he says he remains committed and motivated due to the fact that he truly cares for people.
And the fact that we're here to help people and to serve people. We're not here for ourselves, and to be God's hands extended, and realizing that it was going to take all of us working together to help get all of us on our feet. And so it was a joy. It was hard. It was difficult, but I realized God sent us a lot of help.
The council president confirming that he will not be seeking re-election and had this advice for the next president.
Doesn't matter what denominations we belong to, we all need one another. We're one church. We might be under different names and different umbrellas, but we're one church under Christ Jesus, and we're here to work together. Jesus said, I pray that they will be one, even as me and the Father is one.
And as for what's next for his career,
I'm the assistant superintendent of the Assemblies of God. I'll continue to do that. I'm the pastor of Calvary Temple. I'll continue to do that. I do see God open up the door. I am now entering more into even international missions. And I see God opening up that door for me. I'm working along with a international group called World for Jesus that's focused on world missions and putting efforts together to reach nations and cities for God.
Now the election for the Grand Bahama Christian Council will be held on Thursday, January 27, 2022. The Christian Council president is encouraging all pastors to ensure that their churches and members are registered by the end of December in order to vote. It's Halia Hall, ZNS Network News.
Tonight, the Grand Bahama community is mourning the passing of a long-serving minister of the gospel. Former pastor of Church of God Temple, Peachtree Street, Bishop Lonford Bethel, passed away last night at the age of 83. President of the Grand Bahama Christian Council, Pastor Robert Lockhart, extending condolences to Bethel's wife and family. The council president says Bishop Lonford Bethel served for many years as pastor and in the community of Grand Bahama. Lockhart says, as we say goodbye to this giant in the gospel and spiritual father to many, the angels of the Lord have escorted him home, where we will see him again in glory. Bishop Lonford Bethel is a former undersecretary in the Ministry of Finance, former senior Family Island administrator, and general superintendent emeritus of the Highway Church of God. Stay with us, there's more news right after this break.